Hi guys, it's Emma AITA, your favorite AI slop tuber. Before we jump into today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks so much for your support. Now, let's get right into the video. AITA for refusing to pay for my younger brother's college tuition, even though my parents said I should. I'm 28 years old and have been financially independent since I was 22. I grew up in a family where education was important, but money was always tight. My parents worked hard to support me and my two siblings, but their incomes were limited, and we often had to make sacrifices. I was the eldest child, and my younger brother Jake is 20. He's smart and capable, but also a bit careless with money and responsibilities. Recently, a huge conflict blew up in my family because my parents insisted that I help pay for Jake's college tuition, and I refused. The backstory is complicated. When I went to college, my parents saved what they could, but most of the financial burden fell on me through scholarships, part-time jobs, and loans. I was proud to work hard and support myself, and my parents were proud too. But when Jake finished high school last year, he told everyone he wanted to study business at a private university that costs nearly double what I paid. My parents seemed thrilled and promised to cover part of it, but when the tuition bills started coming in, they said they needed help from me. They argued that since I was financially stable now, I should pitch in. They said Jake was their responsibility, but I should contribute as a family member. They reminded me of all the sacrifices they made raising me and expected me to do the same for Jake. At first, I agreed to help a little, but after reviewing my budget, I realized I couldn't afford it without going into debt myself. I told them honestly that I wouldn't jeopardize my own financial stability to pay for Jake's tuition. I suggested that Jake apply for scholarships, work part-time, or consider a more affordable school. That's when things got ugly. My parents accused me of being selfish and ungrateful. Jake was upset and called me the worst brother for not supporting his education. Other family members got involved, saying I should be generous and family comes first. I felt like I was being cornered into something I didn't want or couldn't handle. I want to support my brother emotionally and help him find solutions, but I can't pay tens of thousands of dollars for his schooling. Now my parents are giving me the silent treatment, and Jake barely talks to me. They say I'm causing a family rift over money. I wonder if I'm the asshole for refusing to pay for his tuition when the family expected me to. After the initial confrontation, the tension in the family only escalated. My parents especially seemed hurt and frustrated. They kept saying that I should see this as an investment in my brother's future, and by extension, the family's future. They told me that when I needed help, they had gone without so I could succeed, and now it was time to return the favor. I understand where they're coming from emotionally, but practically, it's not that simple. I had to sit down and calculate my finances carefully to see what was even feasible. Between rent, student loan payments, day-to-day expenses, and saving for emergencies, I barely break even. Offering thousands of dollars monthly toward Jake's tuition would plunge me into debt, and I'm not willing to risk that. I tried to propose alternatives. For instance, I encouraged Jake to apply for scholarships and grants, which would alleviate the financial burden. I also suggested he look for a part-time job, maybe on campus, to contribute. He agreed to apply but was clearly reluctant. My parents didn't seem interested in exploring these options with me. They just wanted me to write checks. It felt unfair and one-sided. The communication between me and Jake became strained. He started avoiding me, and when we did talk, it was awkward and tense. He accused me of not caring about his future and said I was selfish for not stepping up. That hurt, but I also understood his perspective. He was probably overwhelmed by the pressure of college and the family drama. I tried to reassure him that my refusal wasn't about not caring, but about financial realities and setting boundaries. One particularly difficult moment was during a family dinner when my mother brought up the issue in front of relatives. She said, "Your brother owes so much to this family, and he's going to get a better life with your help. Don't you want to be part of that?" I tried to explain calmly that I supported Jake emotionally and would help him navigate college life, but I couldn't afford to pay tuition. My words were met with silence and some disapproving looks. It felt isolating. Eventually, I started receiving messages from other family members, pressuring me to reconsider. Some said I was being greedy, others that I was breaking the family apart over money. I understand family loyalty, but I also believe that everyone should be responsible for their own choices and finances where possible. If I were to sacrifice my financial stability for Jake, I'd be risking my future, and that wouldn't help anyone. Despite everything, I still want to have a relationship with my brother and family. I hope that over time they'll understand my position better. But right now, the tension is high, and I feel stuck between wanting to help and needing to protect myself. As the situation lingered, the family tensions continued to build. My refusal to contribute financially to Jake's tuition became a focal point of many family gatherings and conversations, often turning heated. I found myself increasingly isolated, as if I was the villain in everyone's story. My parents, particularly, started to withdraw from me emotionally, making subtle comments about how family bonds should mean more than money. They insisted that since I had made it, I owed it to my brother and the family to help lift him up. I understand the sentiment, but I also felt it disregarded the reality of my financial situation. Being made it in their eyes simply meant I was employed and stable, but it didn't mean I had an endless pool of resources. I have responsibilities like paying off my own student loans, managing rent, and building a future for myself. Sacrificing that for Jake's education felt like I was being set up to fail or get hurt financially. Meanwhile, Jake's resentment grew. He'd sometimes send passive-aggressive texts saying things like, "Thanks for nothing," or complain to other family members that I was cold and unhelpful. This hurt me deeply because I truly care about him and wanted the best for him. I kept trying to communicate with him directly, telling him that money wasn't the only way I wanted to support him. I wanted to help with studying, job hunting, and life skills. But it seemed he had already made up his mind. The emotional strain began to affect my work and mental health. I started feeling guilt and frustration. Guilt because family is important, and frustration because the situation felt unfair and one-sided. I even questioned if I should have just taken on the financial burden to avoid all this drama, but that scared me. What if it meant months or years of debt? What if it compromised my ability to be independent and secure? One of the hardest moments came during a family holiday gathering. My parents openly criticized me in front of extended family, suggesting that I was breaking the family and not pulling my weight. Jake stayed silent but looked disappointed. It was embarrassing and painful. I tried to hold my ground, explaining my position calmly and respectfully, but I could see the damage done. This whole ordeal made me reflect on what family means and how financial expectations can strain relationships. I realize that my parents' desire to help Jake is understandable, but their pressure on me feels unfair and unreasonable. I don't want to be seen as the bad sibling or the selfish one, but I also can't sacrifice my financial future for the sake of appearances or guilt. I have since sought advice from financial counselors and therapists to better navigate this complicated situation. I'm working on finding a balance where I can be supportive emotionally and practically without putting myself at risk. I'm hopeful that Jake will find scholarships or other financial aid and that the family can eventually heal from this conflict. In the months after that difficult holiday, the family dynamic remained tense but also somewhat stable. My parents, while still disappointed, began to ease their demands as they saw I was resolute about my financial boundaries. They realized I wasn't going to change my mind, and that pushing me further only strained the relationship more. My brother Jake, meanwhile, eventually found a way to fund his schooling through a combination of scholarships, loans, and a part-time job, though it wasn't easy for him. I made a point to support him emotionally, offering advice on managing his workload and budgeting, which helped slowly rebuild some of the trust between us. This experience taught me a lot about the complexities of family, money, and support. I now understand that sometimes love isn't about giving everything, but about knowing your limits and being honest. Supporting family doesn't always mean financial sacrifice. Sometimes it means being present, encouraging, and helping find solutions rather than simply footing the bill. I also realized how important it is for families to communicate openly about money without judgment or pressure. Looking back, I don't regret standing firm on my decision. Sacrificing my financial security could have had long-term consequences that wouldn't have helped anyone. It was hard to withstand the criticism and guilt, but I believe I made the right choice for myself and ultimately for my relationship with Jake. We're learning to move forward in a way that respects both of our needs. So Reddit, I stand by my decision to set these boundaries despite the fallout. But I'm open to hearing your perspectives. Was I the asshole for refusing to pay my brother's tuition when my family expected me to? Or was I justified in protecting my financial independence and insisting on shared responsibility?